Hello everybody, this is DH Thorne. I wanted to do the next video in my Demon in Review series, which is going to be about one of my personal favorites, Dantalion. Alright, there's a sigil that I sometimes use for him. Now, Dantalion is the 71st spirit of the Guesha, and Dantalion is someone who came to me more recently than the others. He's one that people seem to work with more frequently than other lesser, and I don't want to say lesser, but there's certain go-to entities and demons that people work with in the Guesha, and usually it's the big names. You have King Paimon, you have Belial, you have Baal, you have all these others, and Dantalion's one of those that people seem to frequently work with. Now Dantalion, I'm going to do my best to read you the Goetic word for word here. So forgive me if I get tripped up by the ye old English here. And we're going to interpret this if we can, as well as talk about my experience with him. Dantalion, the 71st spirit, is Dantalion. He is a duke, great and mighty, appearing in the form of a man with many countenances, all men's and women's faces. And he hath a book in his right hand. His office is to teach all arts and sciences unto any, and to declare the secret counsel of any one. For he knoweth the thoughts of all men and women, and can change them at his will. He can cause love, and show the similitude of any person, and show the same by a vision. Let them be in what part of the world they will. He governeth 36 legions of spirits, and this is a seal, which of course I showed you, and I'll show you again, which thou shalt wear, etc. His N, brought to you of course by, I believe, S. Connolly, and her book, The Complete Book of Demonolatry, is Avage Ayer Dantalion An Ka. And of course your pronunciation may vary a little bit. Some people will say Avage, some people will say Avag, I guess. I would say Avage Ayer Dantalion An Ka. And you should intone that, of course, when you're doing your evocations. Don't just say it, unless you're chanting it, I suppose. Now, what did all that gobbledygook mean? Well, before I get into my exact experiences with him, let me tell you what it means to me. Dantalion is like the psychoanalyst, therapist, psychiatrist, Jung, Nietzsche, Freudian archetype of the Guesha. He is, to me, when it comes to anything to do with psychology, your own shadow work, understanding people, influencing people directly and individually, this is your go-to spirit. This guy, in my opinion, beats out a lot of other entities because he is so focused on just getting down and knowing about the target in question. And it really, what he'll help you do, a lot of the times demons like to work through us, as I've mentioned many times in many videos. They prefer to work through us rather than to just give us what we want. They'd rather teach us how to do something, or give us inspiration, or teach us a spell even. They don't want to just, and it's done for you. So he's going to teach you how to manipulate people. He's going to teach you about how to talk to people, specific individuals, to get them to do what you want them to do. So, for example, if I want to influence someone to, sell me their car or something, and I want to talk the price down. Now, this is a very mundane example, which I probably wouldn't waste my time with necessarily, but let's say I was going to do that. He might give me some insight into this person that will help me to understand how their mind works, how to maybe get a rapport with them, and convince them to sell me their car for less than maybe they originally wanted. You could use this, of course, as it mentions, for love and things like that. Now, Dantalion, to me, he's an ethical entity. This is not a being that is going to help you do dirty to people. I'm not saying he won't, or I shouldn't say that. It's just, he would prefer to help you do an ethical thing rather than just, make your balls swell up and make you feel like you're some kind of a badass because you can manipulate people. He's not gonna easily teach you how to manipulate people off a cliff to their own doom. When there's usually another option, And actually, recently, when working with Dantalion, I found myself more focused on ethics. A lot of times I kind of just say to hell with ethics and morality, and I just do because, and I shouldn't say I just say to hell with it, but I mean I don't really think about it. I just do what is correct for me because of my own philosophy. But he's got me thinking more and more about ethics than maybe I usually would. Maybe being more intent on trying to help people with their problems rather than just dominate them and get what I want out of them. So he's a little bit more ethical in that regard. He's also very much into family. If you have family problems, if you have a lot of family dysfunction and things like that, Dantalion is really good at this. In my experience, just the little experience I've had, and in my research of him, he's very good with family stuff. It says love, and they imply romance, but they also mean familial love and love between husband and wife, and bringing that love into your life he's very suitable. He's a very romance-oriented demon. Even his name, to me, Dantalion, that just sounds like one of the Three Musketeers, the romantic one. He sounds like this character to me. I would almost picture him dressed in some kind of, outlandish but attractive, cool-looking outfit in that sense. As for his specific manifestations and presence with me, Dantalion came into my life towards the end of my busy work season, which really just kind of has me over a barrel. I have to work, when I was working, I've probably mentioned this before, just inhumane hours. It's Christmas season, a lot of rude people, and we've had a lot of people quit where I work, or got fired, or got sick, or whatever. So I am doing the work of two people easily for the entire season, and it just gets to me, and I can't even focus on my spiritual work, to the point where I almost lost my connection to it for a little bit. I was really just frazzled. I just couldn't handle it. And he came to me near the end of that, kind of at a time when I needed a reminder that this is what I like to do, what I'm into. So he came to me, and I made his sigil, and this is one of the few sigils I have out and open most of the time. He's still working with me, but this sigil I had, and it's been open, and it was sitting on my desk, because one of the things you can do if you're having a hard time connecting to a spirit, it can help to immerse yourself in their wavelength and their energy. One way you can do that is to research them, and I don't recommend over-researching an entity. Some entities you can over-research, some it's not really as big a deal. Most of the goetics, there's only a little bit of information out there, really. Some of them that were historical figures or historically relevant, like Baal or Lucifer, which isn't necessarily specifically goetic, all these entities, they have a big history to them, which you can get tripped up in, and you can learn too much and spoil it. And I don't mean spoil it like you spoil the movie. I mean spoil your ability to be fresh and open to their truth. Whereas the goetics, many of them are not very well documented, and the documentation there is, very wisely by those who've put it out there, is limited mainly to things that will help you get in contact with them. They don't give you so much that you have to do them a certain way or think of them a certain way. So one of the things that I recommend to people when you're trying to first get in touch with an entity, do a little bit of research and then immerse yourself in their imagery, the things that relate to them or represent them. So their sigil, you can draw their sigil and put it somewhere. Just don't open it yet. Just put it somewhere and be aware of it. Look at it now and then. Think about what they're into. Try to picture them in your mind. And this will, if they're not already knocking on your door, this will get their attention. They know that you're reaching out to them, and they're going to be waiting for you to make that next step, that connection. And that's what happened to me. I was, not really sure when I was going to get around to it because of work. And one night I was tired, and I was feeling kind of like I need an experience. I need a magical experience tonight. I haven't had anything spiritual go on in my life, really, except moving products, And so I stared at the sigil a little bit for a couple seconds in my hand, and I just felt like I couldn't stop. I just felt like, it's like when you haven't eaten candy in months or something, and you get that first bite of a candy bar and it hurts your mouth for a second, and you go, and you eat the whole thing, and, you go crazy. It was kind of like that. And so I'm staring at this sigil, and it starts pulsing, and it starts moving in my hand, and it starts doing everything it does, and I see that, like when it starts, and I'm like, uh-oh. And I start going into a little bit of a trance, and I'm like, I gotta go to bed. I gotta be up in 5 hours. I gotta pull another 12-hour shift plus 12 plus hour shift. I can't do this today. Well, we're doing it anyway. We're doing it live, And so there I am, and Dantalion's coming through, and I sense him, and he's here, and I'm getting rapture, and it was an easy rapture, so to speak. Rapture, if you're not experienced with demons, rapture is this feeling that is of overwhelming emotional outpouring. It can be positive, it could be negative, it could just be fear, it could be almost anything, but it's usually pleasant. It's usually a pleasant feeling. It's almost like what happens to people when they speak in tongues and they fall on the floor. It's a lot like that, except it's not so hokey and stupid. You don't necessarily do that. You'll just feel overwhelmed. You might cry. You might sigh. It's an emotional release, and a lot of the times you'll experience it more if you're stressed, because it is an emotional release. The demon's trying to get to you, and sometimes they'll just open that release valve, that whatever chakra's blocked, whatever is going on that's giving you this emotional problem that maybe is blocking you from sensing them, sometimes they'll just come in and turn the spigot, and you'll just blah, 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 and you'll blubber all over, because they want you to, unless they don't like you, they want you to really get in there with them. They want to get in there with you. They want to work through you. And I've found since becoming reawakened to all this a few months ago, that my specific gift is more in line with channeling than it is with anything else. Physical evocation I can do to sometimes really cool effects. Sometimes I've had really obvious physical manifestations, but most of the time it's subtle, or it's through me. I'll start speaking for them, or I'll just know the message that they're trying to give me, to the point where I can speak in, we'll say, a different personality. Some of them specifically really come through. Lucifer, Belial, which I'll get to later. These can really, like if I'm doing mirror scrying, they'll just come out like they're part of me. Now, Dantalion was more of a visual effect on me. I was seeing him in my third eye. I was closing my eyes, and it was actually pretty interesting, because when I do visualize, most of the time it's in flashes, and I'm always talking about visions, because to me, when I visualize, it's special, because I don't visualize very well, very easily. It's some kind of mental defect I have, which is odd for an artist, because usually artists are very visual thinkers. Well, I'm not. I'm usually a very verbal thinker. So to me, when I see an image, it's a special message, and it's very special. And I started seeing more vividly than usual, like it was more like a dream, like I was seeing it clearly, like I closed my eyes and the swirls of darkness were actually making shapes and things, and I began to see a three-faced figure appear in my vision, and it was very distinct. It had a male, a female, and an unknown, like it was kind of like a mask, and it would almost like switch heads to talk to you based on what it wanted you to know. It would kind of face you with whatever personality was coming through. So one would be more stern, one would be more feminine, one would be more like exotic and weird, and it was just, I don't want to be too specific, because it wasn't like it was a cartoon where they would just switch heads and talk differently. It was just, I knew this is what it was representing, was different aspects of that entity's psyche coming through. And it dawned on me at that moment, that's where I got this whole thing. This is the psychiatrist of the Goetia. This is the psyche. Okay, maybe it is psyche. Maybe it's like the Greek god Psyche or whatever. The Greek, I forget if it's a god or what. But the story of Psyche. Maybe this is this entity that's coming through. Maybe this is where its origin really is. So I'll have to do some research on that. I'm getting a little bit of chills right now thinking about that. So he could be trying to tell me to look into that. So if you find out anything because of that, let me know. I'd love to hear it in the comments. So this entity came to me, and he started filling me with visions and knowledge, and I was getting knowledge and words and things like that, just like it happened with Belial, but these were stronger. These were definitely like, like, hi, I've been wanting to talk to you type of thing. And what sucked was I had to go to bed, and I apologize. I'm sorry I called you forth. I don't want to go to bed right now, but I have to. Please feel free to keep communing with me in my dreams. Keep coming to me. And so I I have maintained an open relationship with him, and it's been helping me. I'm already very, very good at manipulating people, at reading people. I'm very empathic. If I know you face to face, 95% of the population, I get a baseline reading on you within the first 3 or 4 sentences of talking to you. I know exactly what you're feeling. I can predict whether you've liked what I said or not. I can tell when something's bothering you. I know. I instantly know things. It's like being able to see a color others can't see, or smell a smell other people can't smell. I don't even want to say it's magic. I believe that there's a rational explanation for it, even though I'm into magic and everything. I don't think it's like a psychic thing. I think it's literally just because of my background, I'm able to detect the more subtle signals people give off without them realizing they're giving them off. But the point is I can pick these up and I can read you like a book. Well, this could be why he gets along with me, because that is a trait Dantalion will teach you. He will teach you to be empathic, to read people, to know them very well. And when working with him, I've learned a little bit better how to interact with individuals based upon their needs, but also to assert my own needs, and to tell people, I'm not going to help you. This doesn't serve me, I'm not going to help you. Or, this does serve me and I'd like to help you. Or just things like that. It's nothing's perfect, everything's always a work in progress, but he's been a big asset to me. And so Dantalion is going into my grimoire as a book, as an entity that I highly recommend people, if you're into psychology, if you're into any of the things that are aligned with him, see if you can get it in hold with him. And I say him, but this entity can come through as him, her, she, it, they, them. This is a genderless entity that is happy to appear to you with whatever facade makes you most comfortable. It's got multiple faces, multiple personalities, multiple identities, multiple ways of acting. Whatever it takes to communicate with you effectively, it can do. He teaches all arts and sciences. He can teach you magic of all different kinds. A good idea with him, if you were to make him like your patron, he would not be a bad entity to consider making a patron, to devote yourself to if you're into that. I don't do patrons. I don't believe in that personally for myself. Lucifer told me I'm one of his chosen, and part of that is because I don't kneel, and I don't bow, and I don't in any way put myself under anything. But I do keep myself open to all teaching of any sort, of any teacher. So it's not that I'm not open to that, it's that I refuse utterly to ever enter into a attitude of change me, fix me, make me in your image. I don't do that stuff. This is who I am, and I'm going to take what you give me, and I'm going to do with it what I'm going to do with it. I'm not a copycat. I want to do my own thing, and I want to bring light to the world. I want to liberate people, and so this is how I approach it differently. So Dantalion will come to you whatever form you want, and if you want him to come through as a teacher or as a leader or as a boss or as whatever, he can do that for you very effectively. But be ready to be psychoanalyzed by him a little bit, but in a subtle way. King Paimon will confront you and ask you questions that are pointed sometimes. He'll ask you, well, why do you really want to do this? Whereas Dantalion will be like, okay, tell me how does that make you feel? He'll be like that psychiatrist on the chair. He's not very confrontational unless he really has to be. So he's actually, when I did evoke him using a more formal ceremony, his incense, I believe I just used sage, or was it frankincense? No, it was, I think it was lavender. It was lavender. I felt like he wanted me to use lavender. And so I did lavender, and it was a very pleasant. I usually like lavender, but this was extra pleasant. And it came through, and it wafted into me, and it felt cool and refreshing. And that is like a good way to describe what his feeling when his energy connects with you is. It's cool and refreshing. He's just relax, bro. I'm here. I'm your friend. He won't say bro. Relax. I'm your friend. I'm here to support you. I'm here. Talk to me. It's going to feel like you're talking to grandma or something. It's going to feel really just okay. You're going to enjoy it. It's definitely got a release to it. If you ever do connect to his energy, I highly recommend it. Alright guys, so that's pretty much it for this review of Dantalion. I can't really think of anything else that should go in this. If I come up with anything, I'll let you know, but for now, that's it. Thanks. Okay guys, this is DH Thorne here. I had neglected to record a certain section on my review of Dantalion that was rather important. Dantalion's form, as I think I mentioned, when he appears to you, will often appear with multiple heads and faces, and each one of these can be thought of as kind of an aspect of his, but he also usually appears with a book, and there's a lot of speculation on what this book represents. Although Dantalion did not give me access to the book, I don't know exactly what is in it. I got the impression that this book is a book of, we'll just say, important information. Maybe it's like his grimoire or something like that. I've heard people say that this is a book that contains the pact that is used for, in whatever way, it's somehow a symbol of the pact made between him and mankind, or all demons and mankind, perhaps. Maybe he's carrying the grimoire that is used, and given to people to summon demons. I'm not quite sure. One thing I do know is, one of the things I kind of left out, is that he really appreciates when you read books or offer books unto him in some way. Especially grimoires, personal writings, as well as just reading books and things of that nature. I know some people have a very big taboo against burning books, and burning a book would be an offering. I would personally not have a problem with it. It's not like you're burning books because they say something you don't like and you're trying to burn all of those books. It's just burning an object at that point. But if you're uncomfortable burning a book, there's no reason why you couldn't burn your own writings. Create a poem or create something of significance and burn that in his honor. Or find another way to give it as an offering. You don't have to burn it. You can, of course, give it in some other way. One of the great ways to offer anything to an entity is, as you might remember from my offerings video, is to consume it yourself. So you might begin reading a book, especially if it's a book that has anything to do with magic or psychology or psychiatry or sorcery or anything like that. You might want to take that book and essentially consume it in his name. Read it in his name and enjoy it in his name, dedicating it to him before, during, and after the reading, and then, maybe disposing of the book somehow, or just keeping it. It would be fine as well. So it's something to consider. I got the impression that this was something he would appreciate. He did not ask me for an offering, and it should be important to note that you do not have to always make an offering to a spirit. It's just good manners to at least offer them something like, something to enjoy, like incense or whatever. That's usually more than enough. But if he does ask you for anything, don't be surprised if it's a book, or maybe he wants you to listen to this video and that will inspire you to give him a book. Anyway, that should actually cover it now. That should be the end. Sorry about putting the addition at the end of here, but I want to make sure my information was complete.